Hi guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new. My name is Mathilda, obviously, and today I am going to do a big video, or like I have thought about making this video for such a long time, and as you can see in the title it says the problematic structure of Jules in Euphoria. And if you have no idea what Euphoria is, it's a TV show and it revolves around these crazy teenagers having these unrealistic lives, and it's a lot. And in that show there's this character and her name is Jules, and she is a trans woman, and there are some problematic structures of her character. And big disclaimer, I have nothing against Hunter as actress. I think that she's great in portraying Jules, and also I have nothing against the character of Jules. I have nothing against her at all. I really like her, but it's just how the showrunners kind of set it up. And also, these are my own opinions, okay? I gotta tell you that these are my own opinions, and I'm kind of speaking from my own experiences as a trans woman, because I am trans. I have some experience in that area, and I want to talk about the bad, the good, and the in-between of Jules and the structure and how the showrunners kind of set this up. And also, I don't think that I have to say this, but big spoilers ahead. I'm going to break down some scenes and, you know, Jules and her characters, and obviously there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this video. So I gotta tell you, if you haven't seen the show of Euphoria, maybe you can do what you want with that information, but I'm just going to, you know, sprinkle that in before we get started. I'm actually a bit nervous on making this video because I don't usually do videos like this, but I feel like there are so much to unpack and I really want to talk about this. So yeah, I'm going to, because this is my channel. Well, now if that's something that interests you, keep on watching. And now let's get into the problematic structures of Jules.
On the Monday, press the propane.
So the first thing I want to talk about is that the show is not particularly good in educating the viewer in trans issues. I mean, it has its fair share of moments where it discusses Jules' background and her transition and her sexuality in a very good way. However, if you compare Jules with Rue, the show is extremely good in educating the viewer how it is living with a abuse, and it really shows Rue's trauma and it educates you, so you're not really interested in being, you know, a person with abuse, if you get me. And also, if you compare Jules with Nate and Maddie's relationship, it really educates the viewer and you how it is living in a toxic and abusive relationship. So if you watch the show, you'll learn a lot about how it is living in an abusive relationship and how Maddie goes back to Nate over and over again, even though he's very toxic and even though he's very abusive towards her. And it's nothing really to strive for, obviously. And people around her really tell her that this is not something good. And you'll learn this while you're watching the show. And it really teaches you what kind of red flags to look for. However, when it comes to Jules, they don't talk a lot about her being trans. I mean, obviously we know that she is trans, but they don't really discuss the problems with being trans or like the heartaches of living as a trans person. They does it so and so, but it's not good enough. Like, they don't talk about gender dysphoria, they don't talk about transitioning and like surgeries and hormones. They do it on such a surface level, so it's not really something that you think about. It's just very surface level, as I said. And I feel like this show sets itself up for a disaster, since it's telling you that this is an educational show. We're going to teach you about certain moments and aspects of life, and we're going to tell you how it is. But they kind of just like glance over all of Jules's troubles and problems and traumas. And as I said, it does it so and so sometimes, especially in the episode between season 1 and 2. There's a specific episode about Jules, but it's not even in the show. It's like a bonus episode that you have to go out of your way to watch, and it's not even in the show, and it's about Jules. And I feel like, why isn't this in the show? I would be so interested. I was really interested in that episode. I thought that it was a great episode, but not everyone watched it, and I feel like, why? Why did you do that? And don't get me started on season 2, and I'm going to get started on season 2, so that's that. Yeah, it just skips over Jules altogether. It just glances over her, and I don't understand why. I know that there were a few problems like behind the scenes, but I feel like they could do so much more with her character than what they did. And also, since she broke up with Rue, she's no longer her girlfriend, and I feel like they just kind of ignored her altogether after that. And if you didn't know, Rue is the protagonist of the show, and in season 1, she is her girlfriend, but then they break up, and instead of showing them how they function and how they behave like separately, they just keep on focusing on Rue and ignores Jules altogether, and I don't understand why at all. Like, I feel like they could do so much more, and I've stated this multiple times, but I feel like they could do so much more with Jules than what they did. But yeah, as I've stated multiple times in this video already, the show has its moments where it sprinkles them in throughout this show, and one of those moments are when Jules talk about with a lot of men to conquer her femininity, and this is pretty authentic, or at least so I've heard talking to some trans women and being a trans woman myself. Since we've kind of lived in the wrong body for such a long time, we obviously want to use it once we're in the right one. And we feel like we have a lot of gender dysphoria still, and we really want to conquer our femininity to feel like we're finally the woman that we are. It's kind of like buying a brand new car. You don't want to put it in the garage, if that makes sense. But also, it has very questionable moments as well when it comes to that part of the show, and I'm going to talk about that later. I need to talk about that as well. And also something else I feel like I want to discuss, which is just pretty problematic. It's in the episode between season 1 and 2. Not everyone watched it, but in that episode, Jules talks about going off her hormones, and her therapist asks her if she thinks about detransitioning, and she does not. I feel like I don't really understand why they put it in the show, since it's extremely rare for trans women to even go off their hormones in any way, shape, or form. And obviously some do to an extent. Obviously you're not less of a woman if you go off your hormones, but I feel like it's so rare that trans women do that I don't understand why they did it, and I feel like that is kind of like a shock factor. Pretty much, they're like shocking their audience, and since the show is so extremely poor in educating the viewer on trans issues, I don't feel like I don't understand why they put it in. Maybe they put it in to show the viewer that gender is a spectrum and you can be wherever on the spectrum. I understand that, but since it's so rare to go off the hormones, yeah, I don't really understand why they put it in. But now, let's get into the second section of this video.
On the Monday, where's the propane?
This is a huge problematic thing throughout the entire run of the show. It kind of perpetrates the idea that being with Jules makes you gay. Everyone in the show, in one way or another, says that being with Jules makes you gay, which is just like false, since Jules is a woman. And it's very problematic when everyone in the show is saying it, and not a single person, not even once says that Jules is a woman and being with her makes you straight. And it just perpetrates the idea that Jules is not a real woman, and it's very common in the real world, so to speak, that men believes that they're gay for being interested in a trans woman. I've heard it so many times when I've been on dates, like, I can't be with you since you're trans and I will just be gay being with you. And that is just false, since I'm a woman and so is Jules. When everyone in the entire show says this, doesn't teach and educate the viewer that Jules is a real woman, it just perpetrates the idea that Jules is not a real woman. Even Rue states that Nate is struggling with his sexuality because he's interested in Jules. And Nate's dad, who is also interested in Jules, gross, I know it's a very problematic show. And Nate's dad is also interested in Jules, and he's bisexual. Even Jules herself calls them both gay for being interested in her. It's just all very problematic, and I feel like it's so wrong on so many levels, since the show tells you that it's going to educate you and it just does the opposite. And then in season 2 there's Elliot, who is a love interest, and he also states that he is interested in both men and women. So Jules has not had a single love interest who is not either bisexual or is struggling with sexuality. And I know that it's very common for someone who is interested in a trans woman kind of struggles or questions their own sexuality. However, I don't understand why the show is so eager to let you know that being with Jules makes you gay or bisexual, which is just false, and it's extremely problematic and very transphobic, if you ask me. And let's move on to the third section of this video. And that, my friends, brings me to season 2.
On the Monday, press the propane.
I've already talked about this pretty much. I couldn't hold it in. I had to just like blurt it out. As I talked about before, Rue and Jules were girlfriends in season 1, and then they broke up. And I feel like the showrunners kind of felt like Jules wasn't as interesting on her own, so they just kind of dismissed her altogether in season 2. I feel like they thought that, like, oh, her only character trait is that she's trans, and we've already kinda talked about that, so just like kind of skip her altogether. It kind of just makes me feel icky, because I feel like they haven't even addressed her being transgender enough. I feel like they could do so much more with that, but also I feel like they felt like they did it enough, and now they kind of dismiss her, as I just said. But I feel like there's so much more to say. I feel like they could dive so deeper into her character and really break it down for you, as they did in the episode between season 1 and 2 that not everyone watched. And since they did that episode between season 1 and 2, I feel like they thought that that was enough. And I know that there were a few problems behind the scenes, and that is the reason why they didn't put her in season 2. But I feel like they could put her in another way besides the first script idea. I feel like there is so much more to say, and I'm really hoping that they're going to do more with her character in season 3. That is what I really hope, but I don't really have high hopes, if I'm going to be honest. The first thing I really want them to do is just tell the audience that being with the Jules makes you straight, not gay, if you're not a woman. So yeah. That was all of the bad things, and now let's get into the good things, even if there are not that many. And the first good thing I want to talk about in this video, there are a few good things, and that is Jules as a character is actually portrayed by a real trans woman in real life. And this is not something Hollywood does a lot. We need to be honest about that. Hollywood has its fair share of history where its trans characters are portrayed by cisgender people or people playing minorities, whitewashing, gender washing. Yeah, it's just very dark history when it comes to Hollywood. So them actually having a real trans woman playing a trans character, I feel is amazing. And the second good thing about Jules, the show has its fair share of moments, as I talked about before, where it discusses Jules' problems. And it's very good in describing her gender dysphoria in the episode between season 1 and 2. Not really good, but it does it to some degree. And also something it does very good is showing the relationship and how she's trying to kind of find her way with her catfish Tyler, who happens to be Nate. So Jules has this relationship over the phone with this guy Tyler, who is actually Nate. She doesn't know that. So Rue calls this relationship out by telling Jules that it might be dangerous. She has no idea who Tyler really is. And Jules tells Rue that she doesn't have the privilege of being open out in the public with a partner. This is the only time in the whole show that it kind of even talks about the problematic structures with society seeing Jules as not a real woman. This is the only time, and it's just like kinda glanced over. It's not really discussed. They don't even say that Jules is a woman. They just kinda says that she doesn't really have the privilege of being out in the public with her partner. So that is the reason why Jules is putting herself in this dangerous spot, because she feels like she's not worthy of anyone else. So it's very good in talking about very important topics, but also it does it very surface level, and I feel like you could do so much more. But yeah, that was everything I want to talk about in this video, and I've never done a discussion video like this before, but I feel like I really wanted to unpack a few things in this video, and I really hope that you will like this and you were interested in this. If you would be interested in more of these videos, I would be happy to give it to you. I had a really great time recording and planning this video out. And also, what do you think about Jules as a character? Do you think it's problematic? Did you like her character? Did you think that the showrunners did a good job? I just really want to know, but please do remember that everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Please be respectful in the comment section. But yeah, I think that was all, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!